It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the inmates of Beersheba prison are being counted for the 5th time today. They're all Palestinians, prisoners in Israel's highest security jail. Those held here are regarded by Israel as the most dangerous terrorists in their custody, men with blood on their hands. They describe themselves as freedom fighters and now prisoners of war. For both sides, it's a daily battle of wits and words. Locked up together for 24 hours a day, guards and inmates are forced into a complex, surprising dialogue, unlike any other between Israelis and Palestinians.
I don't hate them. They define me as their enemy. They are defined as the enemy. Maybe tomorrow we'll make peace.
For the first time, Israel's prison service has allowed cameras unrestricted access behind their bars.
אני חושב שהעוצמה שלנו, או שכל גוף שרוצה שיהיה לו עוצמה, הוא צריך קודם כל להיות מוסרי וערכי. אם אתה לא מוסרי וערכי, אתה מאבד שליטה. ולכן...
An Israeli officer and a convicted terrorist kill time. Both have lots of it.
הרי אין בפעולת התאבדות מוסרי, משהו מוסרי. כי יש שם ילדים וזקנים, אתה לא בוחר בכפילה את ה... זה לא חיילים, זה לא לחימה בתוך שטח. אז איפה נגמר המוסר? איפה הוא מתחיל? זו הבעיה. אתה לא יודע איפה הוא מתחיל ואיפה הוא נגמר.
כן, שאנשים מתחיל... אני אגיד לך, מהיום, לא מהיום, משנים אמרנו בואו נפסיק את כל זה, תתנו לפלסטינים מדינה...
רגע, זה לא מוסרי, פיגועי התאבדות. זה מוסרי או לא?
פיגועי התאבדות זה חלק מההתנגדות, הם מתנגדים לכיבוש. עכשיו הבעיה, אני חושב, עם כיבוש, הכיבוש משחית גם הצד הכובש וגם הצד הנכבש.
In the past, these two men would only have come eye to eye at the end of a rifle sight. Now, they're offered a unique chance to learn about each other at close quarters.
אבל מישהי, ויכוח, שרון אומר לא, אנחנו נפגוע מי שפוגע בנו, ואנחנו אומרים אותו דבר, מי שפוגע בנו, נפגוע בו.
אבל יש שינוי עכשיו, אני חושב. גם מבחינת אווירה, גם מבחינת...
אף אחד לא רוצה לראות...
Outside the prison walls, the momentum towards peace and the creation of an independent Palestinian state gathers pace. But inside Israeli jails, there are still 10,000 prisoners accused of crimes against Israel. Since the beginning of the Second Intifada 4.5 years ago, the number held by the prison service has increased by over 7 times. The main wings at Beersheba house 8 men to every cell. For up to 4 hours a day, they're allowed outside. For the rest of the time, they live in a 15 by 24 foot space. They have to get on.
يا أخش لين خففت تشكيلة قضيت علينا فينا زيارة بكرة فينا زيارة يا زلمة
صغيرة طلعت صحيح
صغرها يا زلمة صلعنا بالدحليك الله يسامحك
والله طلعت هيك مش عارف
الكاميرا شو
طلعت هيك
خربتها يا زلمة الله يسامحك ربنا يعني إذا بزور لنا النسوان بتكتلنا وياه.
If the prisoners behave, they're granted certain privileges by the administration. They've 10 channels of TV. They're allowed to study Hebrew Open University courses and can buy and cook their own food. Everything in these cells is bought with funds sent in by Palestinian political factions like Fatah, Hamas and Islamic Jihad. For them, it's a means of retaining loyalty. This is Ali Muslimani, a veteran of the Fatah party. Aged 47, he's spent nearly half his life in prison. Like many Palestinians, he has family members who are also in jail. A year ago, he was reunited with his son, Ala.
It's very difficult for a father to see his son in prison. You wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. Prison is all about brutality. It's a hard, tough life. If it was your son, how would you feel? You'd want the best for him. I want him to have a normal life. It was a shock for me to see him here, but it was also a pleasant surprise, because then I could be with him. I am prisoner Ali Badr al-Muslimani, born in Jerusalem. I am sentenced to life imprisonment for struggling against the occupation and forming a group to fight the occupying army and settlers.
Ali is serving his second sentence, this time life, for the killing of an Israeli woman. Having tried to escape twice, he's regarded as a high-risk prisoner. Today, the guards have locked up an extra prisoner in the cell. But there aren't enough beds, so he has to sleep on a damp floor. Ali leads the negotiation.
שאני שם את השטיח של התפילה, אני מרים אותו, זה מים.
זה לא בעיה, אפשר לפתור את הבעיה הזו במרובה, יש שום בעיה.
אז תפתור.
נפתור את הבעיה. אבל לגבי הסיר...
גם יהיה צעדים, אתם רוצים להגיע בסוף לשביתת רעב, פתוחה?
אז מה? אז ישבתו כולם ביחד?
כן, ישבתו. בסוף ישפטו, אתם עוד תראו, לא האמנתם שיהיה שפיטת רעב בהתחלה, כפי שהייתה, לא האמנתם, אבל עוד תאמינו, שתהיה עוד פעם, כי זה מתגלגל, מגיע עד נקודת השבר.
When negotiations break down, the threat of going on hunger strike is the prisoner's main weapon. But the guards can bargain with privileges, granting or withholding them at will.
The reality of prison life is very different in terms of our struggle. Outside, resistance means guns and rifles. But in here, it's about dialogue and negotiation, about determination and principles. In prison, we believe our problems can only be solved through dialogue.
Despite the differences between guards and prisoners, dialogue does result in give and take. On this occasion, Ali's cellmates are given the tools to repair the damp floor.
جبنا عن طريق الإدارة الشمامته وفردوا لنا إياها على الأرض وهسه الحين قاعدين عملية بننظف وبنعمل تشطيب.
The Palestinian prisoners not only have to find compromises with the Israelis. Most of the men in Beersheva are from Fatah, the majority nationalist party. Alongside them are militant fundamentalists from Hamas and Islamic Jihad.
وكيف كانت مناجاتنا لله وهنا أقول
Outside, these factions are bitterly divided about whether to negotiate with the Israelis at all. But here, they present a united front to the administration.
فلا يغترن أحد بمنصبه مهما علا لا يغترن أحد بجاهه مهما كان ولا يغترن أحد بسجنه ولا يغترن أحد بشيء فالموت قريب من الجميع يتقرب إلي بالنوافل حتى أحبه فإذا أحببته كنت
At Friday prayers, the guards are especially vigilant. While freedom to worship is a right for all prisoners and helps maintain order, the guards will draw the line if the sermon becomes overtly political.
When we live in the prison, it's something like you live in a different world. I mean, I know that these guys, they murder and they bomb bus and they murder children and women. You just have to put it away from your mind, because if you think about it, it's impossible to work. We try not to get close to a difficult subject like the situation in Israel.
and the fight between the Arabs and the Israelis. This is taboo. So we try to talk about something else. I mean, children, how to raise children, what's going on with the women those days, and how they trade. I mean, everything, every other subject, not about the hot subject.
And there is no need for this, but what to do?
For recently recruited guards and new prisoners, this is the first time they've come face to face with the enemy.
גמרנו? אתה האחרון? יאללה.
A devout Jew, Rafi Haddad joined the prison service 6 months ago.
When I took the job and talk about the friend and family and asked me, what do you think you're doing? I mean, it's dangerous, you have wife, you have children. Don't you have a life? Here, I'm one guard, around me something like 30, 40 people. They are already from the Hamas, from the Jihad Islami, everything. They kill people, they murder, they bomb, everything. So let's hope that they know what they're doing and they're not going to do something stupid. Stupid for them, very harmless for me.
For new guards like Rafi, the biggest surprise is the number of privileges prisoners are allowed.
Inside the prison, they get everything. Just get everything here. We care about blankets, we care about clothes, we care about shoes, we care about if they go to travel, to visit, doctor, dentist, everything. They don't have it outside. They just most of them don't have it. Almost all of them got no money, got nothing. Economic down. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Prisoners also arrive with their own prejudices about the enemy. Hussam Shaheen was a member of the military wing of Fatah and is accused of distributing weapons illegally and planning attacks on Israeli buses. He's yet to be convicted.
I have been here since here, and I have two friends here. He's in prison since 17 years, and he also here since 17 years in the prison. And my friend there since 4 years. I'm just for 1 year inside this prison, and I don't think so that there is a lot of change happened with the Israeli mentality of facing the Palestinian people. The Israeli mentality is still built on power and the strength, and they are using their own power just to fight the Palestinians.
How do you still wage a war of resistance from inside a prison cell?
Smiling. By smiling, and seeing victory. We will win. We will win the game at the end of the day.
When a prisoner arrives, he's still highly motivated. He still has the instincts of a fighter. Most of them don't know the Israelis, just as we don't know them. I must admit, I didn't know the Palestinian side before I came here. In prison, they start to get to know us as Israelis, our culture, our language, our limits, the things that we as Israelis are willing to accept and what we're not. There's always a battle of wits between the prison service and the prisoners. Both sides try and test the other's limits.
Dr. Yuval Bitton has worked at Beersheva for 9 years as the prison dentist. Between appointments, he does what he can to resolve any disputes that arise.
These men weren't born murderers. These are people who did what they did, and then when you meet them in prison, you can't connect them to the crime. Of course, they have their justifications and we have ours. But it's very difficult for me to connect the actions to the individuals because they seem so normal.
Israeli courts sentence on the basis of a life for a life. At Beersheba, many of the 1,200 Palestinian prisoners are serving multiple life sentences. Among them is a man Israelis regard as their most dangerous prisoner. He's kept in isolation 24 hours a day.
First I saw him, I didn't know anything about what he did and what his punishment was, but after that I read the paper and I saw how big, how very important, a very smart guy he was. And I said, those kind of guys was in the Holocaust. The same guys who kill people without understand what they're doing. I mean, no mercy. They didn't think about anything. That's the same.
Abdullah Barghouti was recently given the longest sentence ever handed out by an Israeli court. 67 life sentences. As the chief bomb maker for the military wing of Hamas, he's responsible for numerous devastating attacks on Israeli soil. His targets included a cafe, a restaurant and a nightclub.
Good afternoon.
Abdullah Barghouti is held responsible for the deaths of 67 and the wounding of over 500 people.
They are more bad than Nazi. They learn from Nazi in Germany. They are start to destroy us. Thief the land, thief the everything. And what we respect from us, what we do, it is nothing. They kill more than 3,000 Palestinians. What we killed, around 1,000, this nothing. I'm not look like Gandhi. I didn't care about the shit they call it Gandhi. Here, we don't care about what they say. We care about what happened for us. They destroy us, we must destroy him more. Because they start. The Holy Quran, he say, who start to destroy you, you should destroy him. Make him nothing. Look, we are round in the circle, in the same circle. We fight and they fight. We fight and they fight. There is difficult way to fight. There is a gun, there is the politica. It's, they taken for the two way, but there is one, we call him the highway. It's the fighting way. The bombing way is the highway. This experience, it's good for me. I know I will get freedom soon. Maybe not today. After today, I will get the freedom. And I will be one of the big politica man in Palestine. When we decide to go outside, we will go. It's easy. Easy more than that. We will come outside. I will see my children, my family, and I spend all my life in the beach swimming. I know that and believe that. And you will see. You will come to visit me again when I was in Ramallah, sitting in my jacuzzi.
Just like outside the prison, there are a few hardliners who reject any dialogue with the enemy. But in here, they can be isolated. A former submarine officer, Commander Ben Gal is in charge of a very different prison to Beersheba. He runs one of Israel's only 2 women's prisons at Hasharon. 61 women are imprisoned here, all accused of crimes against Israel. They range from failed suicide bombers to those who supplied weapons or prepared explosives. Maintaining a dialogue between these Muslim women and the predominantly male guards creates a unique challenge for both sides. Cultural sensibilities can be easily offended. The Israelis do allow children born in prison to stay with their mothers until they're 2 years old.
Some of them are mothers, some are unmarried, and some have husbands at home. It all influences their behavior. Women and young people are unpredictable. Emotion comes before logic. We never forget they are girls and women. But yes, they're also terrorists and murderers.
كيف حالكم اليوم؟ كل شيء تمام معاكم؟ النفسية كيف؟ المعنوية؟ 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 طيب خلينا نكمل الدعاية الانتخابية اللي بلشناها امبارح زي ما انتم عارفين بكرة.
As in all Israeli jails, the prisoners are allowed to elect a representative to speak on their behalf. Currently, the position is held by Amna Muna.
قدر من عند طبعا مهم نعرف انه هون الانتخابات هي مش عباره عن مناصب ولا كراسي، هي بس لخدمه الاسيرات هون. بتمنى التوفيق للكل. تفضل يا عريم. أكثر مما كأني قائدة.
To the girls, I'm more than their leader. I'm a friend to them, like a sister. On top of that, I help them in humanitarian and social matters.
الاجتماعية. My name is Amna Jawad Muna. I received a life sentence in the prison for kidnapping and killing Israeli young man. His name is Ra'ufir Rahum.
Former journalist Amna Muna is one of the most notorious prisoners in Israeli custody. Using an internet chat room, she lured a 16-year-old boy on a date, where he was shot dead by 2 of her accomplices.
I didn't intend that anyone should be killed. Killing another human being is very, very difficult. It's God who decides who lives and dies, and I don't think he chose me to carry out this act. I took a decision a long time ago not to regret anything so I could get on with my life. I don't have any remorse over what happened.
We know Amna is no angel. I never forget she's a murderer and she terrifies the other prisoners. When Amna was on another wing, she used violence. If you go over to Wing 12, you can meet prisoners who had hot oil thrown over them by her. They'll gladly show you their scars. We're talking about a murderer who's continuing in the same vein. Killers don't change their ways.
In 2 months' time, I'll have been in prison for 4 years. Prison has taught me many things. I understand my enemy much better now. I have never had such direct contact with Jews or Israelis before.
It's the day of the elections. As well as choosing a representative, the women are also electing committee members in charge of everything from physical fitness to intelligence. With only a short history of free elections in Palestinian society, this is a precious opportunity for the women to exercise free will.
Throughout the historic struggles of the Palestinian people, democracy has always started in prison. In a small way, we as prisoners are setting an example, which is what our people need right now.
Don't ever forget that prison is a totalitarian regime. In all their dealings with the guards, they must operate within the rules we set. Any breach of this is considered a violation of discipline. Even though a representative is elected by the prisoners, I have the final say as to who it is.
Amna wins comfortably. Her position is now unchallenged. It's a rare chance for the women to let off steam.
I can see from their faces, the looks they give us, that they're not too happy about what's happening here. Right now, I can't control the girls' reactions. They've asked me several times to tone down what we're saying. Their basic goal is to control us, but they won't succeed as long as we stick together. The administration is watching us all the time. If it's not the officers, then it's the guards.
As long as the officers agree to deal with her, Amna's negotiating skills will set the tone of the dialogue between guards and prisoners. The next few days will determine whether she's an asset or a liability. Deep within the vast Beersheva prison complex lies Eshel, the maximum security wing, where the most disruptive and dangerous prisoners are locked up. These are the men who planned the suicide bombings, rocket attacks and shootings that have claimed hundreds of Israeli lives. Most are serving multiple life sentences. With nothing to lose, all are still regarded as a serious threat to Israel's security.
The ones we get here on Wing 4 are troublemakers. They are more of a problem than prisoners in other jails. This is a secure wing, where the senior leaders are gathered. The sort of people who plan terrorist actions outside, from within the prison's walls, whether by telephone, or by letters, or smuggled messages. I have to be very vigilant for reasons of security, and also in the psychological war. Since they are leaders and mature prisoners, there are lots of things happening beneath the surface. I and the guards who work here have to be aware of everything that's going on.
My name is Gilad Cohen, and I'm 36 years old. I'm work here about 6 years, but here in this section 3 years. So I know it from the beginning. There is a war inside. Although it's quiet, an underground intelligence world, but it's still war. They are very, very dangerous. Although they seem like not dangerous, but they are very dangerous, very clever. We are working, as you see, without guns, very close to them. They are almost free inside the section. 15 seconds, or maybe less, I can be in their cells, hijacked. Not long ago, manager of Nafcha jail been almost killed, almost assassinated, knife in his stomach, almost dead. You know, this is the situation here.
In the corridors of Eshel, confrontation is kept at bay as long as guards and prisoners maintain a respectful dialogue.
במקום 4 עיניים, 8 עיניים, 10 עיניים, כמה שיש.
למה?
טוב, לא חשוב. בסדר, בסך הכל, אתה יודע, חיים בשלום.
איזה שלום?
לא?
בוא, כן. אבל בחוץ זה עניין אחר.
בחוץ משהו אחר.
I am Muhammad Mustafa Abu Jalali from Jabalia camp, Gaza Strip. I have been in jail since the beginning of 1991, 10th of March. They convicted me for murder Israelis and fighting the occupation, and I spent between 8 to 9 years in isolation sections till now.
In 1990, soon after Mohammed al-Jalala had graduated from nursing college, Israeli police and Palestinian rioters clashed in Old Jerusalem. Jews describe the incident as the Temple Mount riots. Arabs call it the Al-Aqsa massacre. 17 Palestinians were shot dead and over 100 were wounded, among them women and children. Mohammed was called to treat the injured.
I swear at that moment to revenge all this bloodshed. Me as a staff nurse, as a nurse, I have educated to give life, to promote life, to maintain the level of the health of all the people, in spite of their race and nations. But I went to Jerusalem and I stabbed 4 and injured 8.
Mohammed's act of vengeance claimed the lives of 4 women, all of them civilians.
They call themselves a prisoner of war. I don't see any war. It's just a terrorist act against citizens. When they hit soldiers, I have nothing to do. I cannot say anything about that. But when they go on bus and suicide bomb inside the bus, inside the halls, I will never understand that.
خلاص زين مسبين.
عادة أنا بقرا القدس من الآخر، بقراش من الأول لأنه الأخبار الأولانية كلها قديمة.
لما تيجي تفتح صفحة الأموات أول شيء. والله.
We need يعني all the news.
شو بدنا نسوي واقع؟
Mohammed is a member of the fundamentalist movement, Islamic Jihad. After 14 years in the custody of Israelis, he's learnt that violence is not the only way forward.
There is 2 types of struggle here in prison, the positive and the negative. The positive is attacking guards and taking our rights by force. And this is not suitable for us. We refuse it. We prefer the negative style. Because I'm the prisoner and he's the jailer. He has the strength, he's stronger than me, he has the guards, he has the money, he has everything. And I'm here just to have my mind and my soul, that's it.
The prisoners are highly organised and impose a strict discipline in their ranks. Islamic rules prohibiting drug abuse and homosexuality are enforced, and fighting between prisoners is outlawed.
Any mature person have to control his behavior. And we develop ways to control our emotions. Sometimes maybe I feel frustrated and feel pressure, high pressure. I can release this pressure by many ways, not by shouting on my friend, no. We have rules. If you release pressure in your brother or in your colleague or in your friend and you harm him, you will receive hard punishment.
These are the rules of prison life, and most of the time they're respected. But when prisoners abandon them, The guards are quick to step in. A week after the elections at Hasharon Women's Prison, there's been a near riot. The guards resolved it by turning the fire hoses onto the prisoners.
أنت متوقع إنه تنضرب هذا الضرب هيك يرميه على الأرض ويضربوا هذا الضرب والبنات يسكتوا؟ متوقع بنت تنضرب فينا والبنات يسكتوا؟
أمني منى لابسة ها؟
Amna Muna is accused of starting the disturbance. Having spent 18 hours handcuffed to the bed, she's now summoned to a prison trial. Commander Ben Gal will act as judge and jury.
את למדת פה אמנה? לא. עומדת למשפט על זה שסירבת אתמול לעמוד לספירה. כן, מה יש לך להגיד?
אני לא סירבתי לעמוד לספירה.
לא סירבת לעמוד לספירה? אלא איך?
אני התנגדתי לדיבור של הקצין.
את עמדת לספירה כשאמרו לך לעמוד לספירה?
אני אמרתי שאני רוצה לעמוד, אבל אחרי שהוא...
לא, את רוצה לעמוד. אני שואל אותך שאלה. כשאמרו לך לעמוד לספירה, עמדת לספירה?
אני אמרתי לו שאני רוצה לעמוד.
זאת אומרת, לא עמדת כשהוא אמר לך לעמוד.
אני אמרתי לו שאני רוצה לעמוד, לא אמרתי שאני לא רוצה לעמוד.
יש הבדל כשאני רוצה לעמוד ויש הבדל כשאני עומדת. זאת אומרת, לא עמדת.
כמו תמיד אני עומדת לספירה. אני לא סירבתי.
אם לא עמדת, אמרת לו אני אעמוד אחר כך, זה סירבת לעמוד.
אני לא סירבתי, אני אמרתי לי שאני רוצה לעמוד לספירה.
את רוצה עוד להגיד משהו?
כן. נכון שאתמול היה בעיה ואתם נכנסתם לאגף והרבסתם לבנות והשתמשתם בגז מדמע ובמים ועוד כמה דברים. אבל גם אתם הרבסתם לי זה צריך לשבור את הכבוד, אבל אני מצדי לא רוצה לשבור את הכבוד. רוצים להמשיך כמו שהיינו כל הזמן.
זה לא רק הסמל, גם סוהרת נפגעה?
אני לא יודעת, אני שמעתי.
וגם עליי שפכו מים, מעלש, מים זה בריא, זה למזל.
גם שפכו עליי מים והרביצו לי, אבל זה קורה כל הזמן.
מצאת החשיבה על זה שסירבת לעמוד לספירה כשנדרשת לעמוד ולא אחר כך. תהי בצינוק 14 יום. טוב, תודה רבה. את החזרה לצינוק, כן. אין צורך לגבול אותה, אפשר להשאיר אותה חופשייה בפיקוח.
אני מחזיר אותה לתא פיקוח בלי כבילה.
מה שהתפתח בעצם אנחנו...
We actually anticipated what happened. After she'd been re-elected to the leadership, we expected some sort of confrontation when she would show off her status and power. It could have been directed at the prisoners or the staff.
Amna's position as the newly elected representative is already in jeopardy. Now she has time to consider how to repair the fragile peace.
The situation is very complicated. It seems they've been waiting to do this for a long time. The way to solve the problem is not through force or any protest from us. It's only through dialogue.
On some days, Israelis and Palestinians end up in stalemate. On others, the hope that dialogue can advance their cause sustains them. The elected representative of the maximum security prisoners at Eshel is Abdul Nasser Issa. His job is to win the small privileges that can make all the difference when you're locked up in these two-man cells.
اسمي عبد الناصر عيسى
My name is Abdul Nasser Issa. I was sentenced 10 years ago to 2 life sentences and 7 years. The charges against me were for attacking Israeli targets.
Now aged 36, Issa was arrested while preparing to blow up an Israeli train. He was convicted of planning suicide bombings on 2 Israeli buses. 9 passengers died and 130 were injured. Issa's had little contact with his family since he was jailed over a decade ago.
Of course, separation is difficult, especially when you look at those you love most, your father, your mother, your brothers and close friends. It makes prison that much harder. Now, some of them I will never see again, because, God have mercy on them, they are martyrs.
Despite his imprisonment, Issa maintains the family tradition of resisting the occupation. 3 years ago, he was convicted for coordinating the kidnapping of Israeli soldiers from his prison cell.
As prisoners, we always try to work out the best ways to cope with our situation. It's complicated by the fact that the guards undoubtedly served as Israeli soldiers in Hebron, Nablus, Gaza, and all the Palestinian territories. They may well have participated in operations which harmed my people. But we do our best to ignore this, so we can live as normal a life as possible.
To qualify as a guard in Israel's prison service, you have to have combat experience. Many of the officers, like Chaim Weizmann, have fought in the Palestinian territories.
From about the age of 17, I felt a need to help protect the state. I served for 3 years in the paratroopers, and immediately afterwards I applied for a job in the prison service. I was attracted to it because it's a security service, and because I love the land very much. I love Israel. This is my way of contributing to the continued existence of the state. People may not want to hear this, but really it's a game of war in which they have the edge. We're always on the defensive to prevent them smuggling in mobile phones and planning terrorist attacks outside. They've got 24 hours a day to think.
Twice a week, Weizmann, the wing officer, gets together with Issa, the prisoner's representative.
עזוב, מה אתה מתמקד רגע? יש לי כמה דברים. קודם כל תגיד בוקר טוב, אתה ישר קופץ
מחכה לך כמה זמן.
נראה הבוקר לחוץ יותר מהרגיל. אתה?
לא.
איפה חיוך, קצת מתח, שירד. דרך אגב, ראיתי את התמונה שלו באיזה עיתון. איך הגעת לעיתון אתה?
חסן יוסף.
ראיתי אותה באיזה עיתון, ככה עיתון, כמו תמונות מחזור.
של מי?
עיתון בערבית, מאיפה אני יודע של מי?
תמונה של מי?
שלך.
אני עדיין לא יודע. תן לי להתקשר.
תבדוק. תוציא מהסליקים. הטלפון לווייני ותקשר.
הפלאפונים עכשיו, אין לנו פלאפונים.
מה אתה אומר? אין לכם?
לא, בסדר, אין לי בעיה.
לפי דעתי, האירועים
Nothing happens spontaneously here. Everything is planned. I have to think what is behind even the most innocent request from him. It's a psychological war. It may seem harmless, but it's never as simple as that. There's always something behind it.
יש בעייתיות. שישתדלו להכניס כריכה רכה.
לפעמים ספרי הקוראן, אתה לא יכול...
יש קוראן בכריכה רכה.
לא, אין.
יש.
בדרך כלל, יותר מ-90%...
כל הספרים הקטנים שמכניסים,
הקטנים, נכון, אבל הגדולים...
עם כריכה קשה יש בעיה.
אתה יכול לבדוק עם זה, עם המשקף.
אני יכול לדעת מה, איזה מסר כתוב יש בפנים?
אין מסר.
מה אין מסר? אני אומר לך, יש בזה בעיה. אני כבר דיברתי איתו על זה גם.
אמר, תבדוק להכניס את זה.
דיברתי איתו על זה, זה לא כל כך פשוט. אבל
לתלוש הספר, זה אתה מקלקל.
אבל תולשים בהסכמתם.
לא, בגלל שאי אפשר.
אני הייתי בביקורים כמה פעמים, אמרתי לגברת, את רוצה להכניס את הספר בתנאי שנתלוש את הכריכה?
למה מסכימים?
היא הסכימה.
למה מסכימים? בגלל שאי אפשר להכניס ללא הסכמתם. אם הם לא מסכימים, אי אפשר להכניס ספרים. שלא לתלוש, תאמין לי, זה מקלקל את ה...
אני לא יודע, אין בעיה, אני יכול לפתוח את הכריכה עם סכין ואחרי זה תדביקו את זה אתם.
תביא לי מה שלהדביק, אין לנו גם חומר הדבקה. אם אתה מאשר לי חומר הדבקה, בסדר.
כך.
לא, תודה.
אז יכול להיות שנעביר אותו היום, את החבר שלך לאגף...
15.
איזה אגף?
15, 10.
איזה אגף אתה רוצה?
אתה קובע, אני לא קובע.
איזה אגף אתה רוצה, תגיד לי?
10, יאללה.
10?
כן.
קיבלת. רק זו ההוראה שקיבלתי, 10. ראית איך אנחנו קולעים? על אותו גן. בסדר, זה משחק פנימי, אפשר לשנות מרגע לרגע. ברגע שהוא יוצא לדלת, אני יכול להגיד לו גם 11. בינתיים שיכינו את כל האשגרים ל-10.
כן, מוכנים. אל תדאג.
אני תמיד אומר לו את זה בפנים, שאני...
I always tell him to his face, Isa, I trust you, but I'll keep my eyes wide open. So he knows I don't really trust him at all.
שידע.
Everything he tells me I have to check and check and check again.
הולך לבדיקה.
Trust doesn't come into it. I really hope he moves to another prison soon.
The morning after Amna's trial, there's a surprise for her and the women at Hasharon. The prison service has transferred 30 women from another prison here. All the women at Hasharon have been secular nationalists from the Fatah party. These new arrivals are religious fundamentalists from Hamas and Islamic Jihad. The groups have a history of bitter rivalry. The last time they were housed in the same wing, violence erupted.
When we prisoners disagree amongst ourselves, we're distracted from demanding our rights, and the officers get their own way. In the end, that's what they want.
Amna's still in solitary and powerless to influence events.
Both Amna's group and the new group have gained too much power and unity. By mixing them up, we'll bring them together. There'll be an exchange of opinions between groups. Perhaps it's in the spirit of democracy, and we're helping them to make democratic decisions. I might even be declared a national hero by the Palestinians, because I have helped create peace between the factions.
As the first of the new arrivals is escorted onto the wing, the guards prepare for trouble. Once the Hamas prisoner is told she'll be housed with Fatah women on the same wing, she refuses to enter. For the second time in 48 hours, the guards prepare to turn the fire hoses onto the women.
طب ما هاي البنات آمنة هون يعني وين يعني فكرك وين نكون حتى لو مش هون احنا مش فتات مع بنات انا يعني لو دخلتوني بالقوة راح اعمل شغلة ما بتعجبني الافضل انكم ما تعملوها وليش بتأبد في حد هون طيب انا بتأبد هون في حد مش هذا يعني فيش اشي بيهمني هدي شوي
After an hour of negotiation and threatened with a soaking, the Hamas and Islamic Jihad women are finally persuaded to enter the cells.
I'm sure there will be tension between the factions about money, about the food they buy, about who will be the representative on the wing. It's a healthy tension that serves my interests, and certainly in the future it'll serve other interests.
For now, the hoses are put away. In the meantime, Amna Muna has been listening to the confrontation. News of the transfer hasn't improved her already jaded view of the administration.
Gradually, during my time in prison, my view of Israelis had improved. But right now, I feel it's going backwards. I don't want to say I feel hate, but it's certainly distaste. When I look at Israelis now, all the positive things have disappeared. The evil face has returned.
Despite having been recently elected, Amna will now face a challenge for leadership from the other factions. But for the next 12 days, she'll be alone to contemplate her future and a lifetime of imprisonment.
באולפן עדי תלמור עם יומן הצהריים ובראשו הכותרות. נמסרו לפרסום עד כה שמותיהם של 4 מ-5 חללי הפיגוע אמש במוצב צה"ל ברפיח. 5 מפצועי הפיגוע נודע מאושפזים במצב קשה בבית החולים סורוקה בבאר שבע.
At Eshel, it's business as usual. Issa is still negotiating on behalf of the prisoners. Today, he takes the opportunity to raise a personal matter. He's relying on the dentist, Yuval Bitton, to press his case.
אבל אמא שלו משותקת ידיים רגליים כבר שנה. הוא לא ביקר אותה 4 שנים. אתה רוצה להתקשר אליה?
לא, אנחנו...
אבל שלא יהיה על חשבון של מישהו אחר. שלא יהיה על חשבון מישהו אחר. תדבר איתך.
With Yuval's help, Issa wins a rare concession, a phone call home.
יכול להיות שמת לא תהיה, כאילו זה לא...
אני לא יודע, תאמין לי.
מתי אחרי מראה חכית מעו?
4 שנים.
4 שנים? יכול להיות שהם עברו דירה, אתה לא יודע. עברו דירה ואתה לא יודע.
والله, אני תאמין לי לא יודע.
זה מצחיק.
מרחבה, שלום.
Issa's been told he'll have just 10 minutes on the phone.
אהלן? השיחה תתבצע על הבית. אתה לא אומר דברי הסתה או דברי הקצנה, רק שיחות שלום שלום עם המשפחה. במידה ויהיו דברי הסתה או הקצנה, השיחה תנותק. בסדר?
בסדר.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله، كيف الحال؟
منيحة.
مين بيحكي؟ فرح؟
رحيمة.
مين؟
رحيمة.
مين عندك؟ مين عندك من الكبار؟
فرح.
مين عندك من الكبار؟ من الكبار؟ ستك عندك؟ ستك أمك؟
هيها.
هاتي.
أم عبد الناصر.
السلام عليكم.
ألو.
كيف حالك يا أمه؟
الله يرضى عليك.
كيف صحتك؟
يحميك ربي. الله ينسلك.
هاي سمحوا لنا بالآخر بعد 4 سنين سمحوا لنا نتصل من عند الإدارة.
طيب يا أم.
كيف صحتك؟ إن شاء الله بخير.
الله ينشلك يا رب.
عمر شو أخباره عمر؟
عمر منيح كله بخير.
عمر بقى ما روحش من السجن؟
يعني كريم بروح إن شاء الله.
إن شاء الله. الله كريم. الله كريم.
هيا أبوك جاهز.
طب يلا كويس منيح. المهم صحتك كويسة يا أمه وبخير ومنيحة. الله يعطيك الصحة والعافية يا رب. ادعي لنا دائما، ادعي لنا.
أبوك هذا هي يا أم. الله يرضى عليك.
الله يبارك فيك بخير.
مع أبوك يا أم.
الله يبارك فيك يا أمه.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام، كيف حالك يا أبا؟
والله 100,000 مرحبا.
والله أول مرة هي بيسمحوا لنا بحكي من عند الإدارة، من ملكة الإدارة. الحمد لله.
الله يرضى عليك.
كيف صحتكم؟
والله منيح وجاك شهر.
لا مش كم مرة، مش باستمرار. هاي مرة واحدة حكينا لهم صلنا زمان مش حاكين مع الأهل، الوالدة مريضة، الوالد كبير. ضايل معي دقيقة واحدة.
طيب.
ادعوا لنا دائما بالخير.
الله يرضى عليك.
إن شاء الله فرصة سعيدة. مع ألف سلامة يابا. مع السلامة.
دير بالك
مع السلامة مع السلامة.
הכי חשוב, שמחת לדבר עם אמא ואבא?
כן.
מצאנו אצלו בתת טלפון, זאת אומרת שהוא כן דיבר.
עליו, באמת ניסה?
הם טוענים את זה, אבל אני אומר לא.
הטלפון היה שם יותר משנה, זאת אומרת שנה שלמה היה לו טלפון.
בתא של איסה?
בתא שלו שהוא דיבר חופשי במשך שנה. אז אתה יודע, שלא יעבדו עליך.
עליי לא, מה, אני לא חוקר אותו, אני רק מדבר איתו.
לא, זה לא.
אנחנו לא חוקרים.
אומרים שיש פלאפונים, אבל זה לא נכון. אומרים שמצאו פלאפונים עם האנשים, אבל זה לא בסדר, זה לא נכון.
לא נכון.
כן. כמה תנאים קשים.
In prison, Israelis and Palestinians maintain a dialogue born of necessity. It often falters and frequently breaks down. But most of the time they do achieve conciliation. Outside the prison, the leaders of both sides try and do the same. Among the new Palestinian leadership are men who spent time within these very walls, where they learnt the craft of negotiating with the enemy. Some of Beersheva's current inmates could be the next generation of leaders, if they're ever released.
Once they've completed their sentences in an Israeli prison, they look at things over the perspective of time. On occasion, having met people like me and others, they'll come out and understand hatred doesn't lead anywhere. As they get to know us, it provides them with better tools to handle negotiations with Israelis and arrive at a solution. Maybe tomorrow we'll find peace.
10 سنوات الاعتقال كانت فرصة
10 years of detention gives you a real chance to develop yourself, your ideas, your points of view. If you didn't change for the better, you'd hardly be normal.
لا يتغير بالإيجاب وليس إنسان طبيعي.
10 years inside has had its effect on building up my ideas and opinions. And that's true for many of my brothers, the political prisoners in the jails of the occupation.
كثير من الإخوة الأسرى الأمنيين في سجون الاحتلال.
Palestinian prisoners are being discussed in the ongoing peace talks, but neither Hamas nor Islamic Jihad have agreed to take part.